Welcome. If you're a woman who has a sense that there's more out there for you, you're in the right place. I'm Whitney Baker, host of the Electric Ideas podcast. Somewhere along the line of work and kids, life carried on, but I lost track of my truth. I'm on a reflective journey, and that's what this podcast is all about. Each week, I interview a woman who is lighting her own path and offering others hope. Before our conversation ends, we'll share a reflective question for you to explore. Sometimes all we need is a jolt, a fresh idea, an aha moment that connects us to a sense of possibility. This, my friends, is what I call an electric idea. Welcome back to Electric Ideas. I'm your host, Whitney Baker. Today, I'm excited to welcome wellness expert Erin Clifford to the show. We're going to dive into her book called Wellness Reimagined. Erin and I cover a lot of territory in this conversation, and what I've really been appreciating about our exchange is the remembrance of how interconnected all the pillars of our well-being are, and also that we can choose to approach our wellness with a little bit more compassion and a little less rigidity. She offers tons of tools and strategies that fit seamlessly into demanding lives, whether you have a busy job, a busy household, or both. Erin is a corporate wellness consultant and pulls a lot of insight from her role as a lawyer and managing director at Clifford Law Offices. She really speaks from a place from understanding when it comes to women navigating ambitions and careers without wanting to abandon their wellness. She's also a licensed professional counselor and national health and wellness coach. I know you're going to have some great takeaways from this episode, so let's get into it. Hi, Erin. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks so much for having me.
I want to start by sharing a staggering statistic from your book because you wrote that 80% of chronic disease in the United States is preventable. And I know for the women in my community who are leading full lives, it's really easy to just push our wellness off and keep it at the bottom of the list. And sometimes I think we need a little bit of a truth teller to remind us. So tell us about this statistic.
Yeah, so when you think about this statistic and others like it, a lot of the chronic diseases we get, like heart disease, diabetes, obesity, even certain cancers, can really be caused by lifestyle factors. And so if we can live a healthier lifestyle and find ways to, like I like to say, add pockets of self-care in, it can really help us not only prevent some of these diseases, but if we do start leaning into them a little bit, it can also help us manage them. And so I know as busy women, busy professionals, that can be difficult sometimes. So I'm all about finding ways to work with your life to get in, as I like to say, a little bit of oxygen, right? We all want to put our oxygen mask on first so we can be at our best for everyone around us and be able to do all the wonderful things we want to do in our life.
I really like what you said, and I want to echo that back with pockets of self-care, because I felt like I found with my clients that there's sometimes this all or nothing approach. And I feel like we need to recognize that life, especially if you're a mom, especially if you're working, especially if you're someone who wants to contribute to the community, that there's always going to be stuff. So if we can find ways to integrate these pockets into our day-to-day lives, it's a lot more sustainable. And I feel like your book illustrated so many beautiful examples about that. So can you share some advice for busy women who want to create wellness habits, but they want them to be flexible enough that they're actually sustainable and not this like fit and start mentality?
One of the things I always think can be helpful is to have routines in place. I consider routines flexible, right? Because they provide us with a little bit of structure, but then we can use them to navigate. So, for instance, if you want to get in some workout, some healthy nutrition, maybe you feel like I need a little bit of mindfulness. I want to make sure I'm having good sleep hygiene. If we can build these routines that work for us into our days where we can kind of grab, right, this little time, these little pockets of self-care, we can end up having all these little wins throughout our day that really end up like encompassing a nice wellness plan for ourselves. But the thing is, if you've got that structure, when you have a busy week, when your kid is sick, if you're traveling, if you get off track even for a month, a couple months, you can always kind of pivot and get back into that routine or even just find ways of modifying them. Maybe you're busy one week and you're like, you know what, I can't make it to that class I want to do for an hour a couple times, but can I still get up and go for a little little walk or stretch, and just really figuring out like what are things you need to have in your routines and how can you just make them work for you, sometimes on a week by week basis. But if they're there, you kind of know, okay, these are the things that are going to really sustain me.
Yeah. And I feel like you would agree. I think in high demand seasons, it's easy to
Mhm.
just completely abandon ourselves.
Yes.
And something I've been trying to embody in myself, even summer is a little all the fun, but all of the kind of chaotic schedule changes, shifts. So even for example, for my workouts, I have tried to be like, I will do something for 20 minutes every day. And that's just kind of like a minimum versus might not be my norm, but I'm not just going to throw the baby out with the bathwater if I can't get my full workout in. Do you have any other tips in that area for just helping moms have a framework for claiming like the nugget of their well-being habits without needing to do the full things when life gets full?
Yeah, to me, it's really like that, like mindset shift. As you were saying, even though I can't get everything in, I'm still going to do 20 minutes. So, the one thing I always tell people to think about is, and I like to say it like this: what's your jam? Like, what is the one lifestyle thing I have got to get in? And if I get this in, I'm just going to feel more like myself. I'm going to feel better. I'm going to feel more well. And make sure you're doing that. So, for some people, like for you, maybe it's that workout. You've still got to get some movement in. Other people might be like, you know what? I still got to make sure I'm spending some time with my nutrition. Even if I want to, in the summer, I'm at a barbecue, I want to have that cheeseburger, I'm still going to have a salad on the side, right? Still going to kind of get those vegetables in, or I'm going to make sure I'm really hydrating every day and drinking my water. Or maybe you just need to take a little break during the day and meditate or read a book for 10 minutes. And so just really finding ways to get in like whatever it is that's going to really sustain you. Because if you're a busy mom, right? You want to make sure that you're also taking care of yourself, not just your kids and your family. And then if you've got a job, everything else that's going on. Because I know it can be a lot of times we feel like I can just keep putting my self care off, I can keep putting it off. But the truth of the matter is, when we're not taking care of ourselves, whatever it is we're trying to protect is going to suffer anyway.
Absolutely. I want to take you back to a past version of yourself that you shared about in the book where perfectionism and putting tons of pressure on yourself were the norm, but ultimately it led to some burnout and some breakdown. What do you wish that go, go, go version of yourself would have known sooner?
I wish that go, go, go version would have known, first off, that you're enough and that it's brave to give yourself grace and to ask for help. I really felt like, and part of that go, go, go was always feeling like, A, I had to do everything myself. Everything had to be perfect. And I think it really started initially like in school and then in my work. But what I didn't realize till I was older, and I really started working in the wellness space, was I had taken that mentality and I had put it into my lifestyle planning. I mean, that's how I was with my workouts. Like if I didn't get in my workout 6 times a week for an hour, like I was bad, like I was doing something wrong,
Mm,
almost like that kid would come out. When in reality, now my workouts are a lot less. They're a lot more kind. My body feels better. I was just really, really burning myself out. And what ultimately happened was I started like not enjoying all the things that I used to enjoy. And to me, that's like the biggest sign of burnout is when you're just going through the motions and maybe you have a fun event or something great that's going on at work on your calendar or with your kids. And you're like, I can't even enjoy this because I am just so mentally and physically exhausted.
there's lots of gems in there I want to circle back to. First, from a practical perspective, have you seen any of your clients or experienced in your own life breakthroughs when it comes to how we can ask for help in a more practical way? Because that is something my clients struggle with so much because either there's camp, I don't want to impose, or camp, no one else but me can do it, both of which leave women overstretched.
For sure. We talk a lot like about delegating at work. So like, can I delegate stuff to my team? But I think as women, we don't think about that at home. We get so busy with everything we have going on. And I think sometimes we're afraid to ask for help. Can you ask your partner, for instance, hey, can you go stop at the Walgreens and pick up my prescription on the way home? I'm running the kids here. I've got all this stuff going on. I think we feel like we have to do that by ourselves. And we're just even afraid to ask for that help. Or can you help out with that dinner tonight? And I always tell women too, like, use your friend groups. Like, if you're like feeling stressed out because you've got to decorate for a holiday or something, invite everybody over, make it fun. If you have to, there's nothing wrong sometimes with letting Amazon deliver your groceries if that happens to be the case. And so I think it's really kind of shifting our mindset to realize it's brave and it really does make our lives better when we can outsource some things. And if somebody listening to this is really feels like, you know what, I really feel like I'm struggling mentally, I'm struggling emotionally, just finding some like resources like to help you. Is there a group or a mastermind you can join? Do you need to talk to a coach or a therapist or start with your doctor? I mean, I think sometimes we just kind of suffer in silence. That's kind of one of my messages is that you don't have to do that anymore.
Yeah, this is also causing another thing about your book that really spoke to me is this shift that I saw in yourself that I feel like you seem to share with your clients of this shift towards self-compassion. And I've been there too. I used to work in corporate. I had little kids. I was so in it. I didn't know how burnt out I was until I got off that treadmill and I was like,
Yeah.
whoa, I shot my nervous system.
Yeah.
It's
Yeah.
hard,
It's
but
hard.
I think that you appear to traverse the world with a little bit more softness, and you've talked about and write about how self-compassion is one of your values now.
Mhm.
How do you see that play out differently in your day-to-day compared to that past version of yourself that was so demanding?
I see that play out when something doesn't go my way. I might get really upset at first, but then I'm like, take a step back, take a breath. It's okay. You don't have to do everything perfect. I see that happen a lot with my boundaries too. If I'm ever feeling like I have like too much on my plate and I'm really overwhelmed, I will just give myself a minute and be like, okay, how can I reorganize this? Can I say no sometimes to something? I think sometimes we have all these things on our calendars and then we feel like, oh, I feel guilty sometimes, right? Not showing up, or someone will ask me to do something, whether it's a work thing or a personal thing. And now I try to just be compassionate towards myself. You don't have to do this perfectly. You can't be everything to everyone, and that's okay. I also see it show up too, like with my lifestyle stuff. Like if I have a day where I just kind of was craving some stuff and I maybe didn't follow my nutrition plan, that's okay. I'm going to start over like the next day. Or maybe there's a morning when you were supposed to get a workout in, but you're like, I actually feel like I need to just like stretch and hang out at home. I'm compassionate about that. Where before I would be like, "Oh, wait, you were bad. You didn't go for your workout today."
Yeah, definitely a different shift in the
Yeah.
tone and the way you're speaking to yourself. You work with a lot of people who are in the corporate world, and I'm sure I don't mean to be presumptuous, but it can have a certain intensity and ambitious nature. How do you help people draw the line between working hard and workaholism at the expense of their well-being?
Yeah, I mean, one of the things I try to communicate to people is because usually by the time they come to work with me, they're kind of burnt out. Usually when they're trying to find a coach or they've got diagnosed with like a health kind of a chronic disease and they're trying to navigate it. And something has to give, right? And the time they come to me, I'm like, a lot of times that's you. But I also think a lot of people I work with, they love their jobs, they find it really fulfilling. But I try to communicate with them all these other life domains, like your friends and family, your community, your health, your self care. All these things are important too. So I try to find small ways they can kind of lean in to a little bit more self care and self compassion. And one of the ways I do that is whenever I work with a client, I start by asking them, what are your top 5 values? And we spend a little bit of time on that. And sometimes what they come to realize is when they're working and killing themselves at the office, they're not really being in line with their values. And that's causing some problems for them. And so even just little shifts, like if you want to spend more time with your family, like how often do you like sit at the table and no one has their phone out, the TV is not on? There's lots of little ways you can start to kind of lean into that. And I'm a big fan of small changes over time. If I'm working with a really busy corporate person, I'm like, okay, let's start with adding these 2 lifestyle habits in and then adding some more. And I try to make it fun too. How do we keep track of it? I worked with the CEO once and he loved when he was a kid. His mom like had a tracker for his chores and they put star stickers on it. So we did that for his habits. So kind of trying to bring a little of that childhood like lightness into it too. So it doesn't feel like another job you're trying to fit in.
Hey, it's Whitney Baker jumping in here for a moment. If you're someone who's on top of her game in so many areas of your life, but still struggles with stress and self-care and the constant juggle of success and well-being, this is for you. Maybe you've heard about the importance of a morning routine and even meditation, but it's felt a little woo-woo or different or distant for you. But you do know the second you get out of bed, your brain is often spinning. I created 5 days to less stress, more satisfaction with you in mind. It's a self-guided program that takes less than 20 minutes a day. It gives you, the woman who is holding it all together at work and at home, your own supportive structure to melt into. It's a way to start your day with calming your nervous system and a little bit of self-connection instead of hustle, feet hit the floor energy. Many of my busiest clients have shared with me that by learning to consistently show up for themselves with a little self-connection and self-care in the morning, that they're actually able to be more meaningfully productive and energized sustainably throughout their day. And that's what we all want. 5 days to less stress, more satisfaction is a powerful reset for any woman who wants to show up fully in the world without abandoning her own well-being. It's priced at just $37 because I want this for everybody. It's really a no-brainer. You can grab this program through the link in my bio. And if you have any questions, you can just message me on Instagram at @WhitneyWoman. Okay, back to the show. Right. I love that. Like letting it be play. And yes, I fully agree with that. What do you think when you work with someone, because you've worked with so many different type of people, what are some tells that they're living life that's out of alignment with their values? And it probably is causing anxiety and discomfort and discontent for them.
Yeah, like a lot of excuses. I don't have time for that, Erin. I can't possibly ever fit that in. And they make a lot of excuses around it. But then when I really sit down and talk to them, the one thing I notice is they're really successful at their career. But then when you start talking to them about their relationships and their family and some of their health stuff, and they really start thinking about it, they realize, well, that part of my life is not as successful
Mm.
as my business part of my life. And just seeing if you can poke little holes in it can be helpful. But I do think like the biggest thing I see initially is there's lots of excuses, blaming other people, and just sort of that belief that I won't be who I am if I don't like loosen the reins a little bit here so I can have a little bit more harmony somewhere else.
Yeah, I like how you use the word harmony consistently, and you seemingly chose that over balance on purpose. Can you speak into that?
Yeah, so balance reminds me of walking a tightrope. And if I often when I do presentations, I'll have someone in a suit walking a tightrope. I have a little graphic. And when you think about that, if I even just tilt one way, I might get off balance. And so if we try to live our lives like walking a tightrope, that idea of balance, it's really overwhelming and it seems impossible. Versus like growing up for me, I used to do musical theater and choirs when I was a kid. So I love to like harmonize with like all my fellow actors and singers. So, like, I think of harmony as how our life domains can come together. It's not going to be perfect balance, right? Maybe that executive we're talking about, he's spending all of his time at work. He's a bit of an workaholic. But can we pull back a little bit and get some harmony into those other areas? It doesn't mean he's still not going to be spending a good amount of time in that career finance domains. But if we can kind of come up with the idea to harmonize it, there's not that pressure to feel like it has to be equal. Because I think when we feel like we have to be equal in all these different areas, we're putting way too much pressure on ourselves because it's not realistic. Just like our schedule shift, life shifts, things are going to change. And so you should feel like you can kind of go with the flow with that a little bit, but still make, what the priorities you have priorities.
Well, you mentioned boundaries. I wanted to circle back to that. A
Yes.
lot of my clients really struggle with boundaries. And I like what you said about flexible boundaries, that you gave this visual of the colander where it wasn't like, okay, like it's completely
Yeah.
leaky. But then something that felt fresh for me to discuss was this idea that sometimes boundaries can be rigid. I found with type A people,
Yeah.
sometimes they'll be like, I'm going to get my act together when it comes to wellness. And they make these big changes and then they're kind of miserable because they like cut themselves off socially and they do
Yeah,
all this stuff. I thought that that might be something you see where people make boundaries so extreme that all of a sudden they're missing the connection piece of wellness that you also say is
for
so
sure.
important. So,
Yeah.
what's
Yes.
your wisdom there?
Well, because like if your boundaries are so rigid, I think what happens is you're isolating, right? If
Yeah.
I have my boundaries so rigid, I'm isolating. I'm probably not saying yes to some things I should. So I can be with my friends, my family, my community. And when it comes to wellness stuff, I mean, one of the things for me when I was writing this book was, and I say this, it's a choose your own wellness adventure.
Hmm.
It's like, how can you put a program together that works for you, that works for your family? I mean, I have seen so many times where I'll have a client that'll tell me, "Hey, I tried to do this diet or this exercise plan, but I can't ever go out with my friends. If I go to a party, I have to bring my own food with me. Or I'm so burnt out that I keep doing these workouts every day, but I don't really want to. And now I'm getting hurt." So I really think you've got to have some flexibility. And like if somebody who's maybe, I'm really focused on work, I'm just not going to go out, I'm not going to socialize, that's really just causing that isolation, which to me is what then causes like kind of the mental and emotional like health stuff. So we
Mm,
want to be like flexible. I mean, you still want to make sure you're meeting whatever goals you have, but you also want to be flexible enough that you can enjoy your life. Because to me, what happens sometimes when we have strict boundaries is we're not smiling, we're not having fun, we're not enjoying our life. And to me, you get one life. You should spend some time doing the things that you love.
yeah. It's almost like it can get to extreme where you're scheduling your
Yeah.
life more than living it and you're not showing up for that present moment that we all know that's what it's all about. But
Yeah.
that's really good reminders. You cover a lot of territory in the self-care area in your book, and I always like to leave my community with some practical things that they can just
Yeah.
explore. So I thought that I would just tick through nutrition, sleep, mindful stress management, and community. And I thought maybe you could just share like one practice or tool that have helped your clients and had a bigger impact on your clients' health and peace and happiness. Because I feel like all of those are topics that we could have an individual
Yeah.
conversation about. So this can just be a little bit of an Aaron's greatest hits.
Okay, so Aaron's greatest hits. So for nutrition, and I spent a lot of time in this book on the nutrition chapter, but when I think of nutrition, it's really confusing, right? There's so many different dietary patterns out there, plans. Stick to the basics. If you want just a quick tip, eating more like whole foods, right? Fruits, vegetables, lean protein sources, whole grains, healthy fats, and eating less of all those like processed foods, high sugary foods. Like if you just want to improve your diet, just doing that, right? Having 5 servings of fruits and vegetables a day, building meals around protein. These are just simple ways that you can improve your nutrition without even being on any kind of plan. Because I think when we try to do these strict things, we don't follow them forever. But I'm like, just kind of eating a little more in nature can be really great for all of us.
Yeah, I think that people oftentimes want some silver bullet and we overcomplicate things.
Yeah,
So
we do.
that's helpful. And I really like that. What about sleep?
When it comes to sleep, we all have different sleeping patterns. You need to figure out what works for you in the evenings. What do you need to do to like wind down before you go to bed? For some people, it's just make sure I put the screens away. I'm going to do a mindfulness activity like meditation, read a book, even just getting in the habit of, I always tell women this, like, do you wash your face and like put your skincare on at night? Sometimes we're so busy, we don't do that, right? Even just that like little thing, not only is it obviously good for our skin and anti-aging, but it also helps us sleep. Washing your face, putting some cozy pajamas on. And one of the things I've noticed a lot about sleep is everyone's into these trackers, right? Like the Aura Ring, all these different like devices. Those things are great, but if you're struggling with sleep, we don't just want to know what the quality is. You want to kind of think about like what's going on in my life that's impacting it. If you're constantly waking up in the middle of the night, are you having caffeine too much late, or are you drinking alcohol a lot before you're going to bed? Is this only happening maybe when you're really stressed out and you haven't done anything to relieve that kind of stress? So like really kind of paying attention to that stuff too. If you're trying to work on your sleep, like what habits are going to be supportive and which ones are not?
Yeah. Thinking about your lifestyle choices throughout the day,
Yeah.
not just at night. But then
Yeah.
also, I think cultivating that ritual in the evening to signal to your brain and your body that it's time to wind down, especially in our high demand
Yeah.
society. Somebody I collaborated with always said, "Put yourself to bed like a baby," and it stuck with me forever
Yeah.
because you picture giving a bath, reading a
Yeah.
story, and
I love
oftentimes
that.
I feel like women are just, like, on their cell phone, and then they turn it off, and they're like, "Okay, go to bed," and it's like,
Yeah,
"Nope."
well, exactly, and I always tell people when you get up in the morning, and I get it because there's days I'm bad about this too, like, see if you could go, like, a half hour and not look at your phone. Just kinda do something positive when you get up in the morning, even if it's just for a little bit, so you're actually not just mentally starting to go right away.
Yes. Ugh, I'm huge. That's, like, one of my non-negotiables,
Yeah.
which actually takes us beautifully right into mindful stress management.
Yeah. I always tell people figure out what works for you. I do work with a lot of corporate people. So, like, here, I love meditation and breath work personally. I have clients that love it. I have other ones who are like, Erin, that's way too woo woo. I'm not doing it. So, figure out what works for you. If you're like, I don't really like that stuff, well, there's so many other things you could do. You can journal, you can practice gratitude. One of my favorite things to do with families is to have a gratitude jar. So once a week, every family member writes down one thing they're grateful for, and then you have a meal together where you actually sit and talk about it. So that's always a fun thing. You can do that with a bulletin board too in the kitchen. And one of my things I always tell people, and I kind of brought this up a little bit earlier, is what was your favorite thing to do as a kid?
Mm.
Because that can kind of tie really nicely into some mindfulness practices. I grew up cooking with my grandma. And to this day, like if I'm stressed out and I just want to be like in like a mindful present zone, I'll cook some of that stuff. It really kind of gets me in there. Some people used to love art. If you were someone who's like, I love to color, I like to paint, I like to do puzzles, these are all fun things to bring back in. And there's tons of classes. I've had clients over the years go take an improv class. My cousin got into all these magic classes and has this whole community of friends now, too. So sometimes, like bringing in like things that you thought was fun and you enjoyed when you were younger can become a really good mindfulness activity. And you can even do it in a way where you're then connecting with like a community.
That actually dovetails right into community, the last piece that I wanted to bring up and see if you had any reflections.
The one thing that I've always found interesting is as a wellness person, I've always been interested in like the blue zones, right? So where people live the longest. But when I first started looking into it, I was like, okay, what are they eating? How are they exercising? What's their life like? And they all actually do different things. The one thing they have in common is they're connected so much to their community. So I always tell people, who's your community? Who are your people, right? And make sure you stay connected to them, whether that's your friends and your family. Are you part of even like a health club can be a community, your mom's group or like the school or neighborhood group? If you're in a profession, are you in like an organization with that where you can connect to other people? But the more we stay connected to others, I really think that's what makes us fulfilled and brings us like joy in life. Like we can have all the success and material things in the world, but that can't hug us back and give us that support that we need.
Thank you for all of those reflections and your willingness to go through the greatest hits.
Yeah.
I know we've covered tons of territory. Is there anything else that's just on your heart that's bubbling up, knowing that most of my community is kind of busy moms that you'd like to
Yeah.
share?
I think the one thing I would share is you've got this. If you're thinking about how can I improve my wellness, just do it one step at a time. I love that fable. I kind of end my book with this, the tortoise and the hare. And how I look at it as a coach is that the tortoise and the hare challenge each other to a race. The hare is trying to do everything and he just burns himself out. He falls asleep on the side of the road, but that tortoise just goes slowly and steadily and wins the race. And you know what? He might take a step back here or there too, but eventually he keeps moving forward. So just really like be kind to yourself. Just add in little initiatives over time. It's brave to ask for help from family and friends when you need it. And just to make sure you're taking care of yourself, just take a minute every day just to kind of check in with yourself.
Thank you, Erin. I always end my episodes with an opportunity for reflection. So, in this area of holistic wellness and living your values and setting boundaries that help us show up for our well being, what's one question women could be asking themselves more?
Think they could be asking themselves, what's the one thing that I need for me as a woman, as a human being to feel fulfilled? And see if that's something that you're getting regularly in your life.
Thank you. I want people to find you and support you and read your book. I just want to read the book name out loud: Wellness Reimagined, a holistic approach to health, happiness, and harmony. Where can we learn more about your work and support you?
Yeah, so my website is erincliffordwellness.com. I'm also available as Erin Wellness on Instagram, Facebook, LinkedIn, and my book, Wellness Reimagined, is available, of course, on Amazon and all your other major retailers too.
Wonderful. Erin, this has been great. Thank you for sharing your time and wisdom.
Oh, thank you so much for having me.
I'm so glad you joined me today. If you're looking for more, feel free to connect with me on Instagram at @WhitneyWoman. And if you enjoyed the show, I invite you to support me by leaving a review or sharing it with a friend. Hope you have an inspired day.